you can hear through the record as you're searching for the images and the ideas. There's a common personality through this record.
I think so too. I think a bit. I still feel as if it's.
Is it a concept record?
I don't think, not quite. Although, like, it's just I think it's still, to me, it's like a collection. It's more. There's 11 tracks, isn't there? 11, short stories.
Mm.
And the name for the collection of them, or the name for the music, is taken from one of them, which definitely has a relationship. Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, the song, definitely has a relationship lyrically with 4 out of 5. And the rest of them, like, whilst some of the themes, I suppose, reoccur, or the mood is similar, like you say, it's kind of it's all the same, coming from the same place. I think it is like episodic, I suppose, is the word in throughout the songs, but it's all pulling in the same direction. I suppose it's all trying to, it takes all the 11 tracks or whatever to do the job.
Feels quite cinematic.
I knew he was going to say something about the film. I was going to say, I knew it would come in there.
Well, and very Axelrod-y, very Lalo Schifrin-y.
What I was reading and what I was watching seemed to have more of an influence on it than it has in the past. Like, I've always thought of those things as ways to escape this, or to escape, music or writing music. But I think I can pinpoint it back to during on the Puppets tour. Lauren, who played drums on that and played on some of this, showed us a bunch of movies on that tour that I'd never seen before, and like it was one of them. Once he knew I liked that one, he would show me the things around it, and some of them were these 3 films by Jean-Pierre Melville starring Alain Delon. One's called Le Cercle Rouge,
right?
One's called Un Flic, and the other is Le Samurai,
right?
Music from Le Samurai was very important, I think, when I started writing some of the music initially. Like, I feel like there's if you've listened to that piece of music, I think it crops up a lot in this. But also, like, in each of them 3 films I just mentioned, there's a jazz club, like, at the centre of the story. And these jazz clubs, I think at least 2 out of 3 of them are shot on a set rather than like in on a natural location. And so very stylized. The art direction's very. I don't know. There's a thing about these places, like in these movies, that like definitely encouraged me, or I like took cues from to when I started to sort of work on. I think I'm almost like beginning to feel like a character in one of these places or something. 2015, 14, whenever the Monkees were on tour that year, there was a break during that where I think that started the writing with Alex and I. We were writing together for a really long time and recording demos at my house, and then we took that, to a fancier studio, and there's I'm really proud of that thing that we made there. The process, the way it was done, I repeated that process basically with this Monkees record,
Was it ever broached with the fellas that you would make a solo record before a 19 Monkees record?
Okay. I don't ever remember setting out at the top of this to be like, I'm all right, it's sort of solo time now.
Yeah.
What is different, I suppose, here is I worked in isolation on the recording for a while before everybody else got involved. And that's the thing I haven't done yet, really, before.
So you had an idea of the sound of the record before you were even really kind of...
Well, I started recording it, and in this, so this is where it ties into the Alex thing. The method we'd used there was we record on this Tascam 388 and like flesh out these demos, and then we take them to like the Electrovox studios on Melrose.
See what needs to be expanded on.
And that's the skeleton.
Yeah.
And we add to it, and James and I replaced the bass and drums, and that's how that record got made. And we end up, keep some of the sounds from the original tapes, sing some stuff again. And but the reason I sort of set off doing this Monkees record like that is because this machine and that approach had not only an effect on the sonics and the musical side of things, but when you're working on recordings and you're still writing the lyrics, it's it has an effect on that too. Because I've always sat in a room on my own writing, the words and the music, and then we'd take it to the rehearsal room or whatever. But I think I suppose that like isolation on this record like extended onto the recordings in the beginning. I think with the first song on the record, I just set off like Star Treatment. It's called the first record.
Did you feel like it was the first tune on the record when you made it?
No, I thought it was the thing I was going to write in order to like get to the place I needed to be, and that's I think you can hear that in like the words in the first verse. It's kind of about. I think I was watching a lot of films about filmmaking at that time, and the idea of like a song about songwriting seemed interesting, and I was sort of...
Well, it also starts with the lyric, which people are already talking about, which is...
Okay, let's talk about this.
Well, what was it like? I only wanted to be in the Strokes or something. I'll be a Stroke or something like that, right? Yeah. Now, that's the kind of thing that most people write as a starting point to something and then kind of go, that made me laugh. Now, maybe I should change it. But you said it, and now everyone's like going, oh, and I just think it's a fucking great way to start the record because it just hooks you in.
Well, I think that's precisely what it was. It's like, it's the scrambled eggs, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I looped back around to move it to something else, I just couldn't resist like how blunt it was. Really.
Totally.
What's important to me about it as well is the music that it sits on top of. Like, I think make it permissible. And I think that's also why it got written as well, was because of it starts and there's this jazzy turnaround that happens. There's one of those words that, then sort of makes something like that. I don't know, just gives that like a place.
I wonder how much of the words that you put on this record were overheard or vicarious. Uh-huh. Is that where 4 out of 5 came from? Is that the whole... It got a favourable review, 4 out of 5, and that's unheard of? To me, it's just the kind of thing you hear in a bar somewhere, and you just think, I've got to work that in somehow. There's a bittersweetness, there's a melancholy to getting 4 out of 5, but championing that like it's never been done before.
Because the people that are in charge of like giving the scores are like, they never give a perfect 100.
Oh, never.
I mean,
it's impossible. Nothing's close to perfection. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Well done.
But for like the world's first ever monster truck front flip.
Stop. Can we talk about that title for a hot second? Who came up with that?
Well, the guy who flipped the fucking truck forwards did. But I suppose the thing I'm saying is we're like living in a world where we're flipping monster trucks forwards now. I think we also like this idea of everyone playing in a room together, like on Pet Sounds. Like wanted to do that for a long time, but this is not really the time or the place to do it. Like really, and because we've got all these recordings and these sounds that we like going into it, so it's not like we're gonna get in a room and do a live take or something, and that's what it's gonna be. Except with like the last track on there, like Ultra Cheese was kind of done like that. I was thinking that I don't know if there's something in the writing on the first record that I hear in this new one, or I think the styles developed since then, hopefully. But I don't know, I can't put my finger on what it is, but there's something, about the lyrics on the first record and the lyrics on this. So there's something that like connects them together, like more so than the things in between.
I don't think you're wrong at all. This one it's very direct in terms of what you're saying, and I think there is sort of a detached observation delivered in a personal way. It's like, I'm seeing all this stuff. I wonder how much of the words that you put on this record were overheard.
Absolutely, yeah. Like some of it's just, people just put it out there for you. Remarkable.